Guru Nanak and the Sublime. Guru Nanak, the poet who shared amazing stories. Guru Nanak was a poet who lived a long time ago in a place called India. He was like a super wise teacher, and he started a religion called Sikhism. Sikhs believe in one super loving God who cares about everyone. Beautiful and wise poems. Guru Nanak just didn't teach with words. He used poetry, which is like painting pictures with words. His poems were like beautiful songs about God, love, nature, and life. He even made people laugh and feel joyful with his words. He wanted to share his poems with anyone who wanted to listen and learn. Words that sound cool together. The way Guru Nanak wrote was super special. He used words that sounded really nice when you said them together, like sun and fun. It's like when you're singing a catchy song. Words with more than one meaning. He also used words that had more than one meaning, like rose. It could mean the flower, or when you get out from city. Imagine writing a poem where one word can mean different things. That's pretty cool. Words that make pictures. Guru Nanak words could make pictures in your mind. He'd say bird and sky, and you can see a bird flying high in the blue sky. It's like reading a story that plays out in your imagination. Words that make us feel. But here's the really neat part. Guru Nanak's poems were just not pretty words. They were also sublime. Sublime means something so amazing and wonderful that it's a bit hard to understand. It's like when you see a breathtaking sunset and feel like, wow, awe, wonder, and more. When you read Guru Nanak's poems, you might feel different things. Sometimes you're awed, which means you're super surprised and amazed. Other times you're filled with wonder, like when you're curious about something interesting. It can even make you feel a bit terrified, like when you're scared and nervous. But most of the time, it brings pleasure, making you super happy and satisfied. Exploring Guru Nanak's sublime poems. We're going to take a look at some of Guru Nanak's poems that are magical adventures. We'll try to understand what they mean and how they make us feel. Then guess what? We're going to have tons of fun with them because poetry is like a treasure hunt for words and feelings. The alphabet on the board. The alphabet on the board is one of Guru Nanak's poems. It's about how God created everything with His Word. The poem is like this. The alphabet on the board is the source of all knowledge. The alphabet on the board is the origin of all creation. God wrote the alphabet on the board with His pen of power. God wrote the alphabet on the board with His ink of love. The alphabet on the board is the sound of God's name. The alphabet on the board is the light of God's grace. The poem means that everything in the world is made by God with His Word. He compares God's Word to an alphabet that is written on a board. He says that God's words contain all knowledge and all creation. He says that God's Word is also His name and His grace. The poem is sublime because to express Guru Nanak's wisdom about God is a very amazing and wonderful way. It also makes us feel awe and wonder about how God can make everything with His Word. He also makes us feel pleasure because it shows us how God loves everything with His Word. The Ballad of Hope. The Ballad of Hope is another one of Guru Nanak's poems. It's about how we should always have hope in God, no matter what happens. The poem is like this. In hope, I come into this world. In hope, I live day by day. In hope, I do good deeds. In hope, I sing God's praise. In hope, I face troubles. In hope, I find solutions. In hope, I seek guidance. In hope, I follow instructions. In hope, I die peacefully. In hope, I merge with God. In hope, I am reborn. In hope, I am free from the bond. The poem means that we should always have hope in God in every situation. It says that hope is what makes us come into this world, live our lives, do good things, and love God. He says that hope is what helps us deal with problems, find answers, get help, and obey rules. He says that hope is what makes us die happily, join with God, be born again, and be free from pain. The poem is subtle because it expresses Guru Nanak's attitude towards life in a very amazing and wonderful way. It makes us feel awe and wonderful about how Guru Nanak can have so much hope in God. It makes us feel pleasure because it shows us how Guru Nanak can be happy and free with God. The Hours. The Hours is another one of Guru Nanak's poems. It is about how we should spend our time wisely by remembering God always. The poem is like this. The hours are precious jewels. Don't waste them in vain. The hours are precious jewels. Don't lose them in pain. The hours are precious jewels. Use them to meditate on God. The hours are precious jewels. Use them to serve God's creation. The hours are precious jewels. They will never come back again. The hours are precious jewels. They will decide your fate. The poem means that we should value our time as if we were very expensive jewels. He says that we should not waste our time in useless things or lose our time in suffering things. He says that we should use our time to think of God and help His creatures. He says that we should remember that our time is limited and will affect our future. The poem is sublime because it expresses Guru Nanak's advice about time in a very amazing and wonderful way. It makes us feel awe and wonder about how Guru Nanak can value his time so much. It makes us feel terror because it shows us how our time is important and serious. The One is one of Guru Nanak's poems. It's about how God is the only one who is real and true. The poem is like this. There's only one God. He has no second. He is the creator of all. He is the master of all. There is only one God. He has no form. He is beyond time and space. He is beyond birth and death. There is only one God. He has no name. He is the sound of silence. He is the light of darkness. There is only one God. He has no fear. He is the giver or peace. He is the lover of all. The poem means that we should believe in God and worship Him alone. He says that God is the only one who made everything and who controls everything. He says that God is the only one who cannot be seen or touched or measured or changed. He says that God is the only one who cannot be called or described or limited or divided. He says that God is the only one who can make us happy and safe and free. The poem is sublime because It expresses Guru Nanak's faith in God in a very amazing and wonderful way. It makes us feel awe and wonder about how God can be so great and powerful. It also makes us feel pleasure because it shows us how God can be so kind and loving. The flower. The flower is another one of Guru Nanak's poems. It's about how we should be like a flower that gives fragrance to everyone. The poem is like this: be like a flower that blooms in the spring, that spreads its fragrance to everyone and everything. Be like a flower that does not care who smells its scent or who plucks its head. Be like a flower that does not mind if it grows in a garden or in a field unkind. Be like a flower that does not boast of its beauty or color or of its host. Be like a flower that gives its best to please its maker and to serve the rest. The poem means that we should be good and humble and generous to everyone. He says that we should be like a flower that makes everyone happy with its smell. He says that we should not be selfish or greedy or proud of ourselves or our things. He says that we should not be sad or angry or jealous of other things. He says that we should do our best to make God happy and to help others. The poem is sublime because it expresses Guru Nanak's advice about life in a very amazing and wonderful way. It also makes us feel awe and wonder about how Guru Nanak can be so good and humble and generous. It makes us feel pleasure because it shows how Guru Nanak can be happy and peaceful and helpful. The tree. The tree is one of Guru Nanak's poems. It's about how we should be like a tree that gives shade and fruit to everyone. The poem is like this: be like a tree that grows by the road, that gives its shade to everyone who goes. Be like a tree that bears its fruit, that shares its sweetness with everyone who eats. Be like a tree that does not mind if it's praised or blamed or just left behind. Be like a tree that stands on its ground, that roots in God's love and spreads it around. The poem means that we should be generous and helpful to everyone. He says that we should be like a tree that makes everyone comfortable and happy with its shade and fruit. He says that we should not be selfish or greedy or proud of ourselves or our things. He says that we should not be sad or angry or jealous of others or their things. He says that we should be strong and faithful to God and spread His love to everyone. The poem is sublime because it expresses Guru Nanak's advice about life in a very amazing and wonderful way. It also makes us feel awe and wonder about how Guru Nanak can be so generous and helpful. It also makes us feel pleasure because it shows how Guru Nanak can be happy and peaceful and loving. The pearl. The pearl is another one of Guru Nanak's poems. It's about how we should seek for God who is hidden inside of us. The poem is like this: there is a pearl in the shell, but no one knows it's there. There is a pearl in the shell, but no one dares to look. There is a pearl in the shell, but it takes a lot of work. There is a pearl in the shell, but it needs a special tool. There is a pearl in the shell, and it's worth more than gold. There is a pearl in the shell, and it's God's gift to the soul. The poem means that we have a God inside of us, but we don't realize it. He compares God to a pearl that is hidden inside a shell. He says that finding God is not easy, but it is possible. He says that finding God requires effort, patience, and wisdom. He says that finding God is very valuable because it makes us happy and free. The poem is sublime because it expresses Guru Nanak's wisdom about God in a very amazing and wonderful way. It makes us feel awe and wonder about how God can be inside of us. It also makes us feel terror because it shows how hard it is to find God.
Conquer your mind and conquer the world. We are born of woman. We are conceived in the womb of woman. We are engaged and married to woman. We make friendships with woman, and the lineage continues because of woman. When one woman dies, we take another one. We are bound with the world through woman. Why should we talk ill of her who gives birth to kings? The woman is born from woman. There is none without her. Only the one true Lord is without woman. The highest religion is to rise to universal brotherhood, to consider all creatures your equal. As fragrance abides in the flower, as reflection is within the mirror, so does your Lord abide within you. Will I search for him without? With your hands, carve out your own destiny. Be kind to all beings. This is more mysterious than bathing at the 68 sacred shrines, pilgrims, and donating money. Truth is the highest virtue, but higher still is truthful living. Only fools argue whether to eat meat or not. They don't understand truth, nor they meditate on it. Who can define what is meat and what is plant? Who knows where the sin lies, being a vegetarian or a non-vegetarian? There is but one God. His name is truth. He is the Creator. He fears none. He is without hate. He never dies. He is beyond the cycles of birth and death. He is self-illuminated. He is realized by the kindness of the true Guru. He was true in the beginning. He was true when the ages commenced, and he's been true. He is also true now. Do not wish evil for others. Do not speak ill of others. Do not obstruct anyone's activities. The world is a drama, staged in a dream. Those who are loved are those that have found God. Like the juggler, deceiving by his tricks, one is deluded by egotism, falsehood, and illusion. God is one, but He has innumerable forms. He is the creator of all, and He Himself takes the human form. From woman, man is born. Without woman, man is conceived. To woman, he is engaged and married. Man becomes his friends through woman. The future generations come. When this woman dies, he seeks another woman. To woman he is bound. So why call her bad? From her kings are born. From woman, woman is born. Without woman, there be no one at all. Burn worldly love. Rub the ashes and make ink of it. Make the heart the pen, the intellect the writer. Write that which has no end or limit. Speak only that which will bring you honor. False is the body, false are the clothes, false is beauty. Even kings and emperors with heaps of wealth and vast dominion cannot compare with an ant filled with the love of God. The true one was there from time immemorial. He is there today, and ever there you will find. He never died, nor will he ever die. Look within, you will see him there, enshrined. Build the raft of meditation and self-discipline to carry you across the river. There will be no ocean and no rising tides to stop you. This is how comfortable your path should be. Blessed, blessed is that body, horse which meditates on the Lord God. I am in constant bliss, day and night. Egotism has been dispelled from within me. Let God's grace be the mosque, and devotion the prayer mat. Let the Quran be the good conduct. Let modesty be compassion. Good manners fasting. You should be a Muslim, the like of this. Let good deeds be your Kaaba, and truth be your mentor. Your Kalma be your creed and prayer. God would then vindicate your honor. See the brotherhood of all mankind as the highest order of yogis. Conquer your own mind and conquer the world.
Intro. I truly believe in synchronicity. The title of this book is The Physics of Spirituality. Mind you, I did not come up with this title. My twin brother's John's business partner and dear friend Gurminder Singh Kalasa came up with this title. They have known each other for over 33 years. I've been fascinated by physics and the foundation of consciousness in the universe. For almost 50 years, I've been meditating. You could say my brother and I have a knack for it. If you've been reading my books, which you probably have, I've been writing about the practical experience behind all religions. They are all talking about the same thing. In the past few months, I wanted to talk about the Sikhs. They have an incredible background which the West has ignored. Gurminder's passion is studying the quantum field, using the external lab and internal lab. We will get to that in this book. Brahmana and the Sublime. Brahmana was a poet who lived a long time ago in a place called India. He wrote many poems that are very beautiful and wise. He wrote about God's love, nature, and life. He also wrote with humor and joy. He wanted to share his poems with everyone who wanted to listen and learn. Brahmana wrote his poems in a special way. He used words that sounded good together, like sun and fun. He also used words which had more than one meaning, like rose and rose. He also used words that make pictures in our minds, like bird and sky. He also used words that make us feel something like happy and sad. Brahmanand's poems are not only beautiful and wise, but also sublime. Sublime means something that is very amazing and wonderful, but also very hard to understand or explain. Sublimes make us feel awe, wonder, terror, or pleasure. Awe means feeling very surprised and amazed by something. Wonder means feeling very curious and interested in something. Terror means feeling very scared and nervous about something. Pleasure means feeling very happy, satisfied with something. In this chapter, we'll take a look at some examples of Brahmanand's works that are sublime. We will also try to understand what they mean and how they make us feel. We will also have fun with them. The universe. The universe is one of Brahmanand's poems. It's about how God created everything with His word. The poem is like this. The universe is God's poems. He wrote it with His breath. He spoke the word of God of power and made the light from death. The universe is God's poem. He sang it with His voice. He sang the song of love and made the stars rejoice. The universe is God's poems. He reads it with His eyes. He read the book of wisdom and made the earth arise. The universe is God's poems. He shared it with His heart. He shared the gift of grace and made us all a part. The poem means that everything in the world is made by God with His word. He compares God's word to a poem that He wrote, sang, read, and shared. He says that God's word contains all power, love, wisdom, and grace. He says that God's word is also His breath, voice, eyes, and heart. The poem is sublime because it expresses Brahmanand's wisdom about God in a very amazing and wonderful way. It makes us feel awe and wonder about how God can make everything with His word. It makes us feel pleasure because it shows us how God loves everything with His word. The ocean. The ocean is another one of Brahmanand's poems. It's about how we should always have faith in God no matter what happens. The poem's like this. The ocean is my teacher. It teaches me to trust. It teaches me to float when I am made of dust. The ocean is my teacher. It teaches me to swim. It teaches me to move while I'm stiff and grim. The ocean is my teacher. It teaches me to dive. It teaches me to explore when I'm still alive. The ocean is my teacher. It teaches me to pray. It teaches me to think. When I'm washed away. The ocean means that we should always have faith in God in every situation. He compares God to an ocean that teaches him different things. He says that God teaches him to trust, float, move, explore, pray, and thank. He says that God helps him to overcome his problems and fear. The poem is sublime because it expresses Brahmanand's attitude towards life in a very amazing and wonderful way. It makes us feel awe and wonder about how Brahmanand can have so much faith in God. It makes us feel terror because it shows us how Brahmanand faced his challenges and dangers. The flower. The flower is another one of Brahmanand's poems. It's about how we should be like a flower that gives fragrance to everyone. The poem is like this. Be like a flower that blooms in the spring, that spreads its fragrance to everyone and everything. Be like a flower that does not care who smells its scent or plucks its hair. Be like a flower that does not mind if it grows in a garden or a field unkind. Be like a flower that does not boast of its beauty or color or its host. Be like a flower that gives its best to please its maker and to serve the rest. The poem means that we should be good and humble and generous to everyone. He says that we should be like a flower that makes everyone happy with its smell. He says that we should not be selfish or greedy or proud of ourselves or our things. He says that we should not be sad or angry or jealous of others or their things. He says we should do our best to make God happy and to help others. The poem is sublime because it expresses Brahmanam's advice about life in a very amazing and wonderful way. It makes us feel awe and wonder about how Brahmanam can be so good and humble and generous. It makes us feel pleasure because it shows us how Brahmanam can be happy and peaceful and helpful. The bird. The bird is my friend. He sings to me every day. He sings the song of joy and makes me smile and play. The bird is my friend. He flies with me in the sky. He flies the flight of freedom and makes me soar and try. The bird is my friend. He sits with me on the tree. He sits the seat of wisdom and makes me learn and see. The bird is my friend. He prays with me in the dark. He prays the prayer of gratitude and makes me think and yawn. The poem means that we should be friendly and happy with everyone. He says that we should be like a bird that sings, flies, sits, and prays with him. He says that the bird teaches him joy, freedom, wisdom, and gratitude. He says that the bird helps him to smile, play, soar, try, learn, see, thank, and yawn. The poem is sublime because it expresses Brahmanam's love for nature in a very amazing and wonderful way. It makes us feel awe and wonder about how Brahmanam can be so friendly and happy with a bird. It makes us feel pleasure because it shows us how Brahmanam can enjoy life with a bird. The star. The star is my guide. He shines for me at night. He shines the light of hope and makes me brave and bright. The star is my guide. He leads me to my goal. He leads the way of truth and makes me whole and soul. The star is my guide. He shows me what is right. He shows the sign of life, and he makes me kind and polite. The star is my guide. He blesses me with his grace. He blesses the gift of faith and makes me win the race. The poem means we should always trust in God and follow his will. He says that we should be like a star that shines, leads, shows, and blesses him. He says that the star teaches him hope, truth, love, and faith. He says that the star helps him to be brave, bright, whole, soul, kind, polite, and win. The poem is sublime because it expresses Brahmanam's faith in God in a very amazing and wonderful way. It makes us feel awe and wonder about how Brahmanam can trust and follow a star. It also makes us feel terror because it shows us how Brahmanam faces his challenge and dangers.
palace in the sky. O seeker of truth, I have witnessed such a great one. A well suspended in the sky from which ambrosia ceaselessly flows. A lame person climbs to it without any ladder and drinks jugs of that nectar. Gongs, conches, and kettle drums ring out without being played by anyone. The deaf hear them and become ecstatic. They lose track of body and mind. Up there is a palace without foundation, which is radiant with light. The blind seize it and are so overjoyed they can't stop talking about it. In that place, a person dies, yet continues to live and has strength without eating food. Brahmanan says that only a rare soul can understand his tale. Commentary. I first heard this poem when I was 18 years old in India. It made a precious memory inside of me. There is a jewel inside that mankind can discover. Only a wise man understands what I'm talking about.
Spinoza and the Sublime. Spinoza was a very smart and brave person who lived a long time ago in a place called Amsterdam. He wrote many books that are very hard and deep. He wrote about God, nature, people, and knowledge. He also wrote with honesty and joy. He wanted to share his ideas with everyone who wanted to listen and learn. Spinoza wrote his books in a special way. He used words that are clear and simple, like one and two. He also used words that have more than one meaning, like substance and mode. He also used words that made pictures in our mind, like circle and triangle. He also used words that made us think something, like cause and effect. Spinoza's books are not very hard and deep. Spinoza's books are not only hard and deep, but also sublime. Sublime means something that is very amazing and wonderful, but also very hard to understand or explain. Sublime makes us feel awe, wonder, terror, or pleasure. Awe means something very surprised and amazed by something. Wonder means feeling very curious and interested in something. Terror means feeling very scared and nervous about something. Pleasure means feeling very happy and satisfied with something. In this chapter, we will look at some examples of Spinoza's ideas that are sublime. We will also try to understand what they mean and how they make us feel. We'll also have fun with them. God is everything. One of Spinoza's most famous and shocking ideas is that God is everything. He says that there is only one thing that exists, and that is God. He says that God is not a person who lives in the sky, or who talks to us or makes rules for us. He says that God is not separate from the world or from us or from anything else. He says that God is the world and us and everything else. Spinoza says that God is the only substance that exists. Substance means something that does not depend on anything else to exist or what to be what it is. Substance means something that is self-sufficient and self-explanatory. Spinoza says there can only be one substance because if there were two or more substances, they would have to share some qualities or properties, and they would not be substances anymore. Spinoza says that everything else that exists is a mode of God. Mode means something that depends on something else to exist or be what it is. Mode means something that is not self-sufficient or self-explanatory. Spinoza says that everything else, such as people, animals, plants, rocks, stars, thoughts, feelings, etc., are modes of God. They are ways that God expresses himself or manifests himself. Spinoza's idea that God is everything is sublime because it expresses his wisdom about God in a very amazing and wonderful way. It makes us feel alive and wonder about how God can be everything. It makes us feel terror because it shows us how different God is from what we usually think of him. Example 2. We are free when we understand. Another one of Spinoza's important and surprising ideas that we are free when we understand. He says most of the time we are not free, but slaves of our passion. Passion means things that we feel or want or fear or hate or love without knowing why or how. Passion means things that makes us act without thinking or choosing. Spinoza says that passions are bad for us because they make us unhappy and confused. They make us unhappy because they never satisfy us or give us truth. They make us confused because they make us believe things that are not true or do things that are not good. Spinoza says that we can become free from our passions by understanding them. Understanding means knowing why or how we feel, or want, or fear, or hate, or love something. Understanding means knowing the cause and effect of everything. Spinoza says when we understand our passions, we can control them, or change them, or get rid of them. We can also understand other things better, such as ourselves, other people, nature, and God. We can also act with reason and virtue. Spinoza's idea is that if we are free when we understand is sublime, because it expresses his advice about life in a very amazing and wonderful way. It makes us feel awe and wonder about how understanding can make us feel free. It can make us feel pleasure because it shows us how understanding can make us happy and wise. Why Einstein believed in the God of Spinoza. Einstein was a very famous and smart person who lived in the 20th century. He was a scientist who discovered many things about the universe, such as the theory of relativity, the equation E equals mc squared, and the nature of light. He was also a philosopher who thought deeply about the meaning of life, the origin of the world, and the existence of God. Einstein said he believed in the God of Spinoza because he admired Spinoza's philosophy and view of nature. Spinoza was a 17th century Dutch philosopher who believed that God and nature are one and the same, that everything that exists is a part of God. Spinoza also believed that God does not interfere with human affairs, but reveals himself in the orderly harmony of the world. Einstein shared these views and rejected the idea of a personal God who cares about human actions and destiny. He said, "I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the lawful harmony of the world, not in a God who concerns himself with the fate and the doings of mankind." He also said, "I do not believe in a God who maliciously or arbitrarily interferes in the personal affairs of mankind. My religion consists of a humble admiration for the illimitable superior spirit who reveals himself in the slight details we're able to perceive with our frail and feeble minds." Einstein also respected Spinoza's ethical and rational approach to life, which aimed at achieving peace and happiness through understanding and love. He said, "I have always believed that Jesus meant by neighbor not only other human beings, but all living beings. I think this is what Spinoza meant too," he said. "The highest wisdom is to know that we know nothing. That is true knowledge," as Socrates and Spinoza taught. Spinoza's belief in the God of Spinoza was very important and influential for his scientific and philosophical work. It inspired him to search for the laws of nature that govern the universe and to appreciate its beauty and mystery. It also motivated him to promote human rights, social justice, and world peace. Stephen Hawking was a renowned physicist and cosmologist who did not believe in a personal God who intervenes in the universe. He once said, "If you believe in science like I do, you believe there are certain laws that are not always obeyed. If you like, you can say that the laws are the work of God, but there's more a definition of God than a proof of his existence." Hawking's view of God was similar to that of Spinoza, a 17th century Jewish Dutch philosopher who identified God with nature and its laws. Spinoza wrote, "All things I say are in God, and everything which takes place by the laws alone of the infinite nature of God, and follows, and as I shall presently show, from the necessity of its essence." Spinoza's God was not a creator or a judge, but rather the source and substance of everything that exists. Spinoza rejected the idea of a personal God who concerns himself with the fates and actions of human beings. He also denied the existence of free will and miracles, arguing that everything is determined by the causal chain of natural events. Hawkins agreed with Spinoza that the universe is governed by fixed and immutable laws that can be discovered by reason and observation. He also claimed that there is no need for a creator or a cause for the origin of the universe, because it could have emerged simultaneously from nothing, according to quantum theory, he wrote. "We have found something that doesn't have a cause, because there is no time for a cause to exist in. For me, this means there is no possibility of a creator, because there is no time for a creator to exist in." Hawkins and Spinoza's view of God were different from those of most religions, especially Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, which believed in a transcendent and personal God who created and sustains the universe and interacts with his creatures. Hawkins and Spinoza's views were also different from those of other philosophers, such as Hegel and Marx, who saw God as developing or evolving through history and human activity. Kabbalah, revealing the sublime. Kabbalah is the mystical tradition of Judaism, which explores the hidden and esoteric aspects of the Torah and the nature of God. Kabbalah seeks to reveal the sublime interrelationships of God's various components, such as the Sephirah, the 10 divine emanations that manifest God's attributes and actions in the world. Kabbalah also teaches how human beings can connect with God and achieve spiritual perfection to the observance of the commandments and the practice of meditation. The Kabbalah and the Sublime are closely related, as Kabbalah often utilizes metaphors and symbolism to convey the most abstract and transcendent concepts. For example, Kabbalah describes God as Ein Sof, the Infinite One who's beyond any description or limitation. To create the world, God contracted His infinite light, Ein Sof, to make room for finite existence. Then He emanated His light through a series of vessels that form the Sephirah. However, some of the vessels shattered due to the intensity of the light, causing sparks of divinity to fall into the lower realms. And Sof. The purpose of creation is to restore the broken vessels and elevate the fallen sparks back to their source. These metaphors are not to be taken literally, but rather to illustrate the sublime process of creation and redemption from a human perspective. Kabbalah teaches that God communicates with us in terms we can understand from our own experience, but His true essence is incomprehensible and ineffable. Therefore, Kabbalah also cautions us not to mistake metaphors for reality or to limit God by our finite conceptions. Mitch Ditkoff. In the late 70s, my friend Fran told me about Mitch. She was a good friend of his and said, "You guys will get along well with each other. You are on the same wavelength." Fast forward almost 50 years, and we still have not met. When I was writing this book, Mitch and his work came out to my mind. Each time I read a post for the unspoken word, I get taken to another sublime place that there are no words to describe. I'm like the kid in the candy store. My heart and soul resonates with the wisdom that comes out of those pages. Many of my favorite mystical poems are there. Even Rumi and Kabir have their bowling match together. I was particularly impressed by his article, Why I Quit Poetry in Graduate School when I was 21. This gave me a deeper insight into where he was coming from. Poetry is a passion stemming from the heart. You are not a professional poet. Poetry manifests from the sublime inside. Mitch's insight at such a young age was incredible. Read a section below, and you will see what I mean. Mitch Ditkoff and the Sublime. This comes from Chat AI. Mitch Ditkoff is a poet who wrote about the themes of love, longing, and letting go. His poetry is inspired by the message of Prem Rawat, a spiritual teacher who emphasizes the importance of inner peace and self-knowledge. Ditkoff's poetry can be seen as an expression of the sublime as he tries to capture the transcendence and awe-inspiring moments of his spiritual journey. The sublime is a concept that describes the quality of greatness or vastness that exceeds human comprehension or measurement. It is often associated with nature, but it can be found in art, literature, music, or philosophy, where they express or evoke ideas or emotions that transcend ordinary experience. The sublime can instill a feeling of awe, joy, ecstasy, or terror in us, depending on how we perceive it. Ditkoff's poetry uses metaphors, imagery, and symbolism to convey the sublime experience of his inner connection with the divine. He writes about the fire in his belly, the light in his heart, the moon at sunrise, and the ocean of love. He writes about the challenges and obstacles he's faced on his path, such as doubt, fear, attachment, and loss. He acknowledges the paradoxes and mysteries of life and celebrates the beauty and grace of every moment. Some examples of Dickoff's sublime poetry are: the moon at sunrise is not half as bright as your face. When you smile, and I know you are mine, from full moon at sunrise, poetry of the heart. There is a fire in my belly that burns for you, a flame that never dies. No matter what I do, it is the fire of love, the essence of my soul, the reason I am here, the thing that makes me whole. From the unspoken word, love longing and letting go. I am not this body, nor this mind, nor this breath. I am not these thoughts, nor these feelings, nor this name. I am not this world, nor this time, nor this space. I am that which is beyond, all form and shape, all sounds and sights. I am that which is within, all heart and soul, all light and love. From the spoken word, love longing and letting go. Why ChatGPT thinks it's a good idea to buy my new book of poetry? Unless you've been in a coma this past year, you probably are already familiar with ChatGPT, an AI tool that has taken the world by storm. Curious to know what ChatGPT has to say about my poetry, I asked it a series of probing questions yesterday, some of them quite unusual. Yes, I was curious, but I also wanted to provide possible readers of my new book with the kind of unbiased input they needed in order to make an informed decision about whether or not they wanted to buy it. Here goes. Tell me about Mitch Dickoff's poetry. Mitch Dickoff is an American poet, author, and speaker who has published several collections of poetry over the years. His poetry is known for its accessible and reliable nature, often touching on themes of love, spirituality, and the human experience. Dickoff's style is straightforward and unpretentious, using simple language and imagery to convey complex emotions and ideas. His poems often have a conversational tone, as he is speaking directly to the reader, and are written in a free verse style that allows for a natural flow and rhythm. What is the source of Mitch Dickoff's poetry? Mitch Dickoff's poetry is inspired by a variety of sources, including his own life experiences, observation of the world around him, and spiritual practice such as meditation and contemplation. He also has been influenced by the works of other poets and writers, as well by the natural beauty of the world. Additionally, he draws inspiration from his work as a consultant and facilitator, helping individuals and organizations to unlock their creative potential and achieve their goals. Overall, Dickoff's poetry reflects his deep appreciation for the mysteries of life and his ongoing quest to understand and connect with them. What do you think the title of Mitch Dickoff's new book of poetry really means? Unspoken word, love longing and letting go. The title suggests that the book contains poems that deal with themes of love, desire, and the process of letting go. The phrase unspoken word implies there are emotions and feelings that are not easily expressed in words and may require deeper reflection and introspection to understand. It may also suggest that some of the poems in the book deals with unrequited love or unexpressed feelings. The words love longing suggest a sense of yearning or a sense of desire for love or connection, which could be explored in some of his poems. Letting go suggests the idea of releasing attachment or moving on from something, which could be related to themes of loss, endings, or personal growth. Overall, the title Unspoken Words, Love Longing and Letting Go implies a collection of poems that explore complex emotions and experiences related to love, desire, and personal growth, with a particular focus on the challenge of expressing and navigating those feelings. I have dandruff, or reading Mitch Dickoff's poetry helped me get rid of my dandruff. Reading poetry can be a great way to reduce stress and promote relaxation, but it is unlikely to directly help you get rid of dandruff. Dandruff is a common condition that occurs when the scalp becomes dry and flaky, often due to fungal infection or overactive oil glands. To treat dandruff, you may need to use an anti-dandruff shampoo or try some home remedies like applying tea tree oil or aloe vera to your scalp. While poetry may not be a direct solution for dandruff, it can certainly be a helpful tool for managing stress and anxiety, which can worsen the symptoms of dandruff. Stress is known to trigger or worsen various skin conditions, including dandruff. So incorporating relaxation techniques such as reading poetry can help you reduce stress and potentially improve your overall scalp health. Why should I read Mitch Dickoff's poetry? Mitch Dickoff is a renowned writer, poet, and speaker who has authored several books and poems that have touched the heart of many readers. His poems is often insightful, thought-provoking, and inspiring, and it can help readers gain new perspective on life, relationships, and personal growth. Dickoff's poetry often explores the human experience in a reliable and accessible way, using vivid imagery and metaphors to convey complex emotions and ideas. His works are known to be uplifting and inspiring, encouraging readers to embrace their true selves, follow their passions, and live fully in the present moment. Reading Mitch Dickoff's poetry can also be a great way to relax and unwind, as his words have a soothing and calming effect on the mind and soul. His works can be enjoyed by readers of all ages, backgrounds, and interests, and can be a source of inspiration and guidance for those seeking to navigate life's ups and downs. In summary, reading Mitch Dickoff's poetry can offer a wealth of benefits, including insights into the human experience, inspiration for personal growth, and a sense of peace and calm. If you're looking for a meaningful and uplifting read, his poetry is definitely worth checking out. How is Mitch Dickoff's poetry similar to Rumi's poetry? Mitch Dickoff and Rumi are both poets who explore themes of love, spirituality, and the human experience in their poetry. While there are certain differences in their writing styles and cultural contexts, there are also some similarities between their poetry. One similarity is the use of metaphor and symbolism. Both poets use images from nature's everyday life and spiritual traditions to convey deeper meanings and insights. For example, Rumi also uses the images of the beloved as a metaphor for the divine, while Dikov frequently draws on images from nature to illustrate the beauty and wonder of the world around us. Another similarity is our focus on the importance of connection and relationships. Rumi's poetry often emphasizes the interconnectedness of all beings and the transformative power of love, while Ditkov's poetry frequently explores the bonds that ties us to one another and the ways in which we can find meaning and purpose through our relationships with others. Both poets also have a contemplative quality to their work, inviting readers to reflect on their own lives and the world around them. While their styles and approaches may differ, both Rumi and Dikov uses their poetry to inspire readers to connect more deeply with themselves, with others, and with the larger world. How is Mitch Dikov's poetry similar to feta cheese? Feta cheese is known for its unique tangy and salty taste, crumbly texture, and its versatility in culinary uses. It is often used in Mediterranean dishes such as Greek salad, spanakopita, and pastries. On the other hand, poetry is a form of literary expressions that uses language to evoke emotions, convey ideas, and tell stories. Poetry can take many forms, including sonnets, haikus, free verse, and more. It can be deeply personal, evocative, and sometimes abstract. One possible similarity between Mitch Dikov's poetry and feta cheese is that both are unique and have their own distinct flavor or style. Like feta cheese, Mitch Dikov's poetry may have a certain tang or flavor that sets it apart from other poets or forms of expression. Additionally, both poetry and feta cheese can be approached by a wide range of people, even those with different tastes and preferences. Just as feta cheese can be enjoyed in various dishes by people with different palates, poetry can speak to people in different ways, regardless of their backgrounds or experiences. Overall, the comparison between Mitch Dikov's poetry and feta cheese may not be entirely clear or straightforward, but share qualities of uniqueness, versatility, and appeal to a diverse audience. If I read Mitch Dikov's poetry, will I live forever? Unfortunately, reading Mitch Dikov's poetry will not make you live forever. While poetry can inspire and enrich our lives, immortality is not a guaranteed outcome. It's important to approach poetry and literature with an open mind and a willingness to learn, grow, and appreciate the beauty of language. But it's also important to keep our expectations realistic. That being said, reading poetry can certainly enhance our experience of life and helps us to connect more deeply with ourselves and the world around us. If I was going to live on a desert island, does it make sense to bring Mitch Dikov's poetry with me? Firstly, living on a desert island means you'll be isolated and away from the rest of the world. Bringing a source of entertainment, such as books, can help you pass the time and keep your mind occupied. If you enjoy reading poetry, then bringing Mitch Dikov's poetry books may be a good idea. Secondly, it's important to consider whether you have limited space and weight restrictions when packing for your trip. If bringing Mitch Dikov's poetry book means sacrificing other essential items, you may want to prioritize those instead. Lastly, everyone's tastes and preferences are different. If you enjoy Mitch Ditkoff's poetry and find it inspiring or uplifting, then bringing his books could provide you with a sense of comfort and familiarity on your desert island. Ultimately, the decision to bring Mitch Ditkoff's poetry books with you depends on your personal preferences and priorities. I am Mitch Ditkoff's first wife. We were married for 4 years, but I think both of us were too young to enter into marriage. Do you recommend I read his poetry? As an AI language model, I cannot make personal recommendations. However, if you're interested in reading his poetry, it might be helpful to first explore your own reasons for wanting to do so. Perhaps you're curious about his creative expression, or you're interested in exploring your own emotional reactions to his work. Whatever your reasons may be, I suggest that you approach his poetry with an open-minded heart, free from any preconceived notions or expectations. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide whether or not reading his poetry would be a valuable and meaningful experience for you. I live in a cave in the Himalayas. I rarely see people. Every 3 months, my brother-in-law brings me supplies. Should I ask him to bring me a book of Mitch Ditkoff's poetry? If you enjoy reading poetry, then asking your brother-in-law to bring you a book of Mitch Ditkoff's poetry might be a good idea. Reading can provide a source of entertainment, education, and mental stimulation, especially in a solitary environment. It may also provide a new perspective and help you pass the time until your next Sublime runs. However, if you're not interested in poetry or prefer other types of reading material, then it may not be necessary to ask your brother-in-law to bring a poetry book specifically. You can request other books or materials that interest you instead. What is the relationship between Mitch Ditkoff's poetry and the work of Prem? Mitch Ditkoff is a poet and consultant who has worked with various organizations to foster creativity and innovation. Prem is a speaker and author who is known for his message of personal peace and the exploration of the human potential. There is no direct relationship between Mitch Ditkoff's poetry and the work of Prem. However, both individuals share a similar interest in the exploration of the human experience and the potential for personal growth and transformation. Both of them have worked to help individuals tap into the innate creativity and find greater meanings in their lives. While their approaches and methods may differ, both Mitch Ditkoff and Prem offer insights and perspectives that can help individuals to connect with their inner selves and discover their unique path toward personal fulfillment. I'm on my deathbed. My doctor tells me I have less than a month to live. Does it make sense for me to read Mitch Ditkoff's poetry before I die? If reading Mitch Ditkoff's poetry brings you joy or comfort, then it may be worth your time to read it. Poetry can often provide solace and help us reflect on our lives and find meaning in our experiences. Additionally, reading poetry can be a way to connect with others and share in the human experience. However, if you feel that reading poetry would not bring you any benefit, then there is no need to do so. It's important to focus on what is meaningful to you and spend your time doing things that bring you peace and comfort in your final days. Ultimately, the decision to read Mitch Discoff's poetry or not is a personal one, and it's important to do what it feels for you. Rumi and Kabir bowling. Last year, as I understand it, Rumi was a best-selling poet in the United States more than 800 years after he was alive. Kabir, too, is still being widely read, as is Hafez, Gibran, and a host of other ecstatic poets from time gone by. Many people assume these guys must have been praying, meditating, or fasting all day long. But I don't think so. What followed is a homage to Rumi and Kabir, my fantasy of how these two divine souls might have spent a night in a bowling alley if they were still alive today, which they are. Rumi and Kabir bowling. I have been to the place where Rumi and Kabir are, bowling all night long. They're rolling perfectly round balls down a perfectly polished alley, laughing at the sound of the pins falling down again and again and again. Each time they bowl a strike, even when they miss, which is often, their aim wandering in fabulously random ways around this great interior space. Rumi orders a shot of red-eye, Kabir a Bud Light. Their cleaning of glasses, some kind of esoteric temple bell ritual. Neither of them understand. They keep drinking and laughing and drinking again, knocking back the elixir of their late night bowling life, and muttering under their barely moving breath about the strangers outside, returning home from yet another night shift. Rumi opens his mouth to speak, but nothing comes out. Kabir, long beard flecked with foam, orders a second round, and then a third, as if the world was on fire. Suddenly, Rumi looks over his left shoulder. More pins fall, this time leaving a perfect 7-10 split. Kabir, knowing he'll never has to write another poem to prove himself whole, leaps from his chair and hurls himself down the perfectly polished alley, arms outstretched, moving at the speed of light beer. Bang! Both pins fall, like cedars in Lebanon, like Adam from grace, like trees in a forest with no one near enough to hear. If anything had actually happened or not, no one except Red-Eye Rumi, that is, now swirling like a madman in his chair and pointing to the door. A small man in starched white uniform enters, many keys hanging from his belt. "Hey, you two, what are you doing here? This place is closed." Rumi just smiles, tilts his head back, and speaks into his empty glass, now megaphone for the moment. "I beg to differ, my good man. This place is not closed. It is open. If it were closed, we would not be here. Open it is, I say, wide open, open like the Red Sea, like a window on a summer night, like the eyes of a young man upon seeing the most beautiful woman in the world walk across the room, her body the perfect mix of spirit and flesh. Open, I say, like a book like the sky, like the heart of one not yet disappointed in the ways of the world. Go about your business, friend, and leave us here, two happy hieroglyphs of love. We have a perfect game on lane 23, intones a disembodied voice over the PA system. A perfect game. Rumi and Kabir pull over another chair, pour another drink, and beckon to the man in the starch white uniform, many keys dangling from his belt. Good friend, come closer, come drink with us. Come now, the night is still young. Why I quit poetry graduate school when I was 22. There is a moment in everyone's life when all the cards are on the table, all the chips too. A moment of truth when the entire universe is conspiring to call one's attention to the choice we have every single second of the day to let go of our past and more towards what is truly calling us, even if we have no idea where it will lead. One such moment happened for me in 1969 during my first and only semester as a graduate student at Brown's University prestigious MFA Creative Writing program. Like most long-haired, sallow-cheeked, Vietnam-phobic seeker of truth, whose depression imprinted parents would have much preferred him to have chosen law, medicine, or chief over poetry, I found myself at the ripe old age of 22, majorly exponentially challenged, sleeping 12 hours a day, posting my newly minted poems on trees at midnight, and feverishly reading Reiki, Wallace Stevens, and William Carlos Williams, just in case the conversation turned thusly with any number of my far well-read poetry professors, engaging me in literary conversations at any number of ultra-hip parties that I kept getting invited to. The kind of heady gatherings where Kurt Vonnegut and other traveling bards kept showing up, laughing lines around their eyes, unable to mask a lifetime's worth of sadness, disappointment, and despair. It was at one of these Ivy League sorries, embellished by drinking and smoking more than I should have, that I found myself consumed with a burning question rising from deep inside me. The kind of question that, if left unspoken, everything I ended up writing from that moment forward would be nothing more than a clever overcompensation for my inability to speak my truth now. Approaching my first professor, large glass of cheap red wine in my right hand, I let the questions fly. If you could be anywhere in this world at this precise moment in time, where would you be? Professor One replied, dramatically pausing and looking to the ceiling in case a beautiful co-ed was standing nearby. Excellent question. Let me see. If I could be anywhere in the world at this precise moment in time, where would it be? Well, that would be Baja California. Definitely, Baja California. I love it there. Nodding and doing my bearded graduate student best not to bump into anyone else as I made their way across the suddenly tilting to the left room, I spotted my second professor, an unhappy, married, hemlock-bellied, minor poet of a man who I knew had been for the past few weeks hitting on the same unhappily married shopkeeper in town that I was. Guatemala, he blurted. Definitely, Guatemala, especially the small village whose name I can't for the life of me remember. A village just 20 15 miles outside the capital city. Loved that place. Fueled as I was, what was now emerging as a definite pattern of response from my professors, I quickly found my way to the bar, where Professor 3 was holding court, a large hummus stain on his too small polyester shirt. Where would I be if I could be anywhere in the world, he repeated. That's easy, the Pacific Northwest. How I love the rain and the fog. What a great place to write. You should definitely go there sometimes, Mitch. As I walked away, 22-year-old knowingly to the last of the lot, it began dawning on me that none of my so-called mentors wanted to be where they were. All of them wanted to be somewhere else, a better place, a warmer place, a more exotic place. And here I was, restless, semi-depressed, aspiring to be just like them. When 20 years later, a wise-ass graduate student would be standing in the exact same room, asking me where I wanted to be, and my answer, like all of my underpaid professors, would be something else. Why not leave now, where I could still get out of town? If I needed proof, I had all the proof I needed. 4 professors, 4 questions, 4 of the same responses. I slept very well that night, and the next night too. When my Monday morning poetry class rolled around, the one Professor 1 began by calling my name and noting with tenured gravitas that he wanted to see me immediately after class, a request that indicated only one thing. The jig was up, that I missed her attempt to outstare my professors so they would think I knew more than I actually did, was about to be summarily kicked out of school, underwhelmed as my teachers were by the spotty quality of my work and the insidious ways in which Lawrence Fergalite and Dylan Thomas kept leaking into my writing, not to mention the fact I still had no clue why Wallace Stevens was such a big deal. Mr. Dickoff, Professor 1 announced as the class emptied out. The facility and I, after much consideration, having reviewed your work carefully, had decided to give you a full teaching scholarship. Wow, that's interesting, I replied. I quit. Quit, he said. You can't quit. Don't you realize what you've been given here? A totally free graduate school education at Brown University? Like I said, sir, I quit. Thanks for the offer, but my education needs to happen somewhere else, which is exactly what happened. 2 days later, I was no longer a graduate student. 2 weeks later, I was living where I really wanted to live, Cambridge, Massachusetts, and doing what I really wanted to do, being a night desk clerk at a second-rate hotel. Plenty of time to read what I wanted to read, plenty of time to write what I wanted to write, and plenty of time to live the poetry of life, not just study it. The incredible story of Prem Rawat, sharing inner peace with the world. Once upon a time, in a faraway land called India, there lived a remarkable boy named Prem Rawat. This young boy was special because he had a gift that made people feel truly happy and peaceful. Let's embark on a magical journey and learn all about him and the wonderful thing he shared with his world. The boy with a special gift. Prem Rawat was just a child when he started showing signs of his extraordinary talent. He had an incredible ability to help people find happiness and peace within themselves. You see, most people spend their lives searching for happiness outside in toys, games, or even big houses. But Prem Rawat knew that real happiness comes from within our hearts. Finding inner peace. Prem Rawat had a secret treasure hidden within him, and he wanted to share it with everyone. He would sit down with people and teach them how to close their eyes and look inside themselves. It was like discovering a hidden garden full of beautiful flowers and calm ponds. Feel the peace that's always inside you. You don't need to go anywhere to find it. The power of words. Prem Rawat was also a great speaker. He used simple and beautiful words to help people understand their feelings better. He would say, "Imagine your heart is like a beautiful lake. When you're calm, it's like a still glassy surface. But sometimes life's troubles create ripples on the surface. My message is to help you calm those ripples so you can see your reflection clearly." Spreading love and joy. As he grew older, Prem Rawat traveled to different parts of the world, meeting people from all walks of life. He spoke in huge gatherings, telling everyone about the treasure of inner peace that he had found. People listened, and many started feeling happier and more peaceful, just as he had promised. He taught them to be like a lighthouse, shining their inner light to guide them through the stormy seas of life. In your heart, there's a light, he would say. Let it shine bright and spread love and joy wherever you go. Helping the world. But Prem Rawat didn't stop there. He wanted to help not only individuals, but also the world. He believed that if more people found inner peace, the world would be a better place. So he started organizations and initiatives to promote peace, unity, and understanding among people of all nations. Prem Rawat, giving knowledge to the world. Prem Rawat dedicated his life to giving knowledge to the world. The knowledge wasn't found in books or on the internet. It was the knowledge of how to find peace and happiness within ourselves. He traveled to far-off lands, meeting people young and old, and sharing his wisdom. His message was simple yet profound. No matter who you are or where you came from, you have the power to find inner peace. It's a treasure that can change your life, and when shared, can change the world. Through his teachings, Prem Rawat has touched the lives of millions, inspiring them to find the inner peace and happiness that he himself had discovered as a young boy. His journey continues to this day as he travels the world, sharing the timeless wisdom of inner peace with all those who are willing to listen. In doing so, he carries forward the legacy of his father and the generations before him, ensuring that knowledge of inner peace remains a beacon of hope and inspiration for generations to come. The endless journey. Prem Rawat's journey to spread inner peace and happiness still continues today. His message is like a beautiful melody that touches the hearts of those who listen. He reminds us that no matter where we are, we can always find happiness and peace within ourselves, just like what he did when he was a young boy in India. And so, the story of Prem Rawat and the Sublime teaches us that true happiness isn't found in material things, but within our own hearts. It's a magical journey we can all take, no matter how young or old we are. Just like Prem Rawat, we can discover the peace and joy that resides inside of us,
Intro.
waiting to shine
This
bright
book is all
and make the
about
world
receiving
a better
knowledge from
place
Prem
for
Rawat
all.
and the incredible effects it had on my life. Words can't describe how grateful I am. Before meeting him, I was yearning to learn how to meditate. I somehow knew there was a jewel inside of me waiting to be discovered. This book will describe my precious journey and the incredible friends I've met on the way. Many of these I haven't spoken to in years, yet there is a thread of love tying us all together. In some of my stories, I had to talk about my experience in the past. Today, the meditating techniques are the same, but the expressions have changed. I apologize if I offend anyone. Even before receiving knowledge, I knew there was 5 internal senses. The day I received knowledge changed my life forever. In one instant, my life went from the external to the internal. Yes, I had and still have issues to clear. Curveballs will be thrown your way. Yet my foundation through practicing this day in and day out has transformed me. My brother and I love to meditate. We seem to have a knack for it from day one. Changes can occur in your life. I love to enjoy each moment on this journey. Baby steps are needed. One can never see how far one has traveled on this journey. Many people say they can't see the results, yet, if they look back to see where they came from and where they are now, it's the difference between night and day. Prem has dedicated his entire life to spreading this knowledge. It's been 50 years since he first came to the West. I can't imagine how many programs he has attended. Most of the time, he is on the road. If you ever have the chance to see him or hear him, I would highly recommend it. You will not be disappointed. As Prem once said, try it and you will like it. People try it and like it.